Hi, I'm Ali, and these are my first impressions of the Asics Metaspeed Sky Tokyo and the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo. So if we rewind the clock back to 2020, before Asics developed the Metaspeed, the brand was essentially not in a great place. Its athletes were choosing to wear other super shoes for their races. So Asics basically put a team together that they called the C Project, and they began developing the very first Metaspeed, which came out in 2021. Now let's talk about this two-shoe approach. So Asics basically sent about 10 different prototypes to a wide group of runners. And what they found is that there were two shoes in particular that they were most popular. And they were what they called stride runners and cadence runners. So if we look at the Sky, this is for what they're calling stride runners. So these are people who, as they get quicker, they increase their stride length. And then in the Edge, this is for cadence runners. So these are people who increase their step rate as they speed up. I personally don't know sort of how easy it is to use this method. I think a lot of people are going to struggle to identify perhaps whether or not they're a stride runner or a cadence runner. I'm sort of still not quite clear which one I am, but I would say I am probably more of a stride runner, and yet I've always gotten better with the Edge. So I don't think it's necessarily a case of you're going to be one shoe or the other. What I have found more useful, and this might not necessarily ring true, is that I've personally found the Edge slightly more geared towards heel strikers in the past, whereas the Sky has potentially been more geared towards midfoot to forefoot strikers based on how the foams and the plates are configured. Again, Asics might not agree with this, and I know other runners, for example, who are heel strikers who get on better with the Sky, but that is personally what I have found more useful when determining which shoe to go for. And Asics has kept this two-shoe approach throughout all the iterations. So we had the Sky Plus and the Edge Plus in 2022, and then we had the Sky Paris and the Edge Paris last year. Now we have the Edge Tokyo and the Sky Tokyo. So the names are very, very confusing, but they've kept things pretty consistent. Now, this is the Edge Paris, and I would say, honestly, it was one of the most responsive, lightweight super shoes to come out last year. I think it was really put Asics up there with the best of the best. So lots of exciting things as we come into the Tokyo models. Okay, so let's take a look at the latest models. The biggest update, I would say, is around heel stability and the midsole foam. So the midsole is now half FF Blast Turbo Plus, that was the midsole used in the Paris, and half FF Leap, which is a brand new foam for the brand. And according to Asics, this is 15% lighter, 13% bouncier, and 30% softer than the previous FF Blast Turbo Plus foam. They haven't said exactly what it's made from, but I would suspect a sort of nylon PEBA blend. In both shoes, you've got a 39.5mm stack at the heel and a 34.5mm at the forefoot, giving it a 5mm drop overall. But where the shoes then start to differ is how the midsoles are configured in each shoe. In the Sky, the top layer is FF Blast Turbo Plus and the bottom layer is FF Leap. The carbon plate is also positioned slightly higher up in the midsole and is slightly flatter, less curved than in the Edge, and that is for vertical propulsion. So then if we look at the Edge, the bottom layer is FF Blast Turbo Plus and the top layer is FF Leap. And the carbon plate is also more curved and sort of spoon-like and placed lower down in the midsole for forward propulsion. So both shoes then use this Motion Wrap 3.0 upper, so a slight upgrade from the Motion Wrap 2.0 used before. I think it's marginally lighter. You've got these sawtooth laces here, and then you've got this tongue as well that is perforated. And then finally on the outsole, they've both got rubber, but as you can see, they are slightly different, again, because they're catered for slightly different runners. Okay, so let's start off with the fit. In terms of sizing, these are a unisex shoe. So the UK 8.5 women's is actually UK 8 men's, and that's the pair I got. I would actually say to go up half a size if I could. I would have a UK 9 women's 8.5 men's. I think I could do with slightly more room at the top of the toe box here. So that's my comment there. Then in terms of the fit throughout the shoe, I would describe the heel and the midfoot as normal, bordering on narrow in terms of the fit. I think it's very foot wrapping. You definitely feel very hugged in here. If your feet are on the wider end, it's definitely going to feel a little bit constricted, but Again, it's what I would expect from a race day shoe. I would say width-wise though, you've got plenty of room here. I definitely don't feel sort of constricted either way in that regard. And then in terms of the volume in the toe box as well, I know this was an issue for some people in the Paris models, quite a low ceiling, which occasionally could rub on the top of your toe. Asics have definitely addressed that in this version. You've got much more volume there. So I think in regards to sort of how that will cope in terms of hotspots over the marathon distance, you shouldn't have as many issues. One area I'm maybe not so keen on is this tongue. I think it certainly feels very nice. It's this sort of felt thin material. It doesn't quite lay flat on the top of the foot, a little bit fiddly and sort of furls over on itself when you've got it on. So maybe an area that I would address for next time. However, padding on the heel counter here is enough that you need to keep you comfortable for race day. And I'm a fan of the lacing system as well. I think you can get a really nice cinched in fit on the midfoot. Okay, so moving on to first impressions, I've taken both of these for an initial test run, so by all means haven't had a lot of time with them. But if we start off with the edge, I would say the thing to focus on here is this sort of rear stability. So on both of these shoes, you can see they've got much more rounded heel counters than before. And again, this is deliberately to aid that stability in that area. Particularly if we compare it to the previous version, you can see just how much it's changed there. So as soon as you start running in these, you are going to notice this new FF Leap foam. It is incredibly springy, very, very springy. I would almost say sort of trampoline-like in the way that it compresses and you just sort of bounce right back up. But I think where you've got that sort of more curved plates and you've got that sort of foam there in the heel that is the FF Blast Turbo, the sensation is more sort of rolling than it is snappy. So I would say I tend to land and it rolls you onto your toes for that really sort of springy toe off. Particularly here, this is where a lot of the FF Leap foam is centered, is in the forefoot. So you're really gonna feel that springy toe off at the end there. So then if we look at the Sky, as I've said, the foams are reversed in this one. So what you actually have on the bottom is that FF Leap foam. So you are going to notice a very sort of soft heel if you're a heel striker like me and you land on it there. Again, where the plate is not as curved as in the edge, I would say you're getting a slightly snappier toe off with the Sky. Like you can really feel like you're being sort of snapped up onto your toes here, which makes for such an enjoyable ride. I think I can see people enjoying this shoe, honestly, for like 5K right up to the marathon. There's enough here to keep you comfortable over the marathon distance, but I think the Sky sort of really demands that you're running quick. And for that reason, I think the 5K, 10K is going to be super enjoyable in these as well. In terms of sort of the rocker profiles on both shoes, I think the Metaspeed have never been a really dramatically rockered shoe like the Hoka Cielo X2, for example. But there's definitely enough here that you sort of do feel yourself rolling through your gait, up onto your toes. And as I said, over anything from 5K to marathon, you're going to have a lot of fun in these. They are extremely lightweight, extremely responsive, and yeah, overall so much fun to run in. I think personally for me, if I'm weighing up the two shoes, I would lean more towards the edge. I am a heel striker. My marathon PB is around 3 hours 16, and I think just for me, having run in these, maybe use the Sky for shorter distances, but definitely over longer distances, I really value that sort of rear stability. And I'm definitely feeling like I'm getting that more from the edge. So that's why I would lean towards that one. But yeah, you can make your own personal decision on which one that suits you. Final thing to note on these shoes is that they're going to be retailing for around £220, which I think is excellent value. Very similar to the Adidas Adios Pro 4, which is also £220. I think genuinely these are some of the best super shoes on the market. So the fact that they're sort of the low 200s rather than the high 200s is going to appeal to a lot of people. So very pleased to hear about the pricing on these. So there you have it. These are my first impressions of the Asics Metaspeed Sky and Edge Tokyo. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more gear reviews.